How's it going, guys? Welcome. I am the White Dragon, and I have with me...
Sir Briz.
Yes, and you're listening to the Beyond Unreal podcast. So this is a weekly show where we go through all of the news and happenings in the Unreal Tournament community. So we have a lot of stuff to go over first, but let's introduce ourselves first. Briz, why don't you go ahead?
All right, I'm Sir Briz. You have probably heard of me before if you're on Beyond Unreal.
Probably.
I've been in the Unreal community since 1998 and been real active with all of the games and just real excited to be starting up with a new UT.
Oh yeah, me too, for sure. So, again, I'm the White Dragon. I joined Beyond Unreal like August of 2000, and I've played all of the games. I was probably most active during 2004, so that's, just so you know, that's one of my biases are long live fast weapon switch. But I've played all of the Unreal Tournament games. I love every single one of them, and I'm really excited to get into this new game. So let's just go down through the facts first about what's going on. So in case you've been living under a rock, they announced a new Unreal Tournament game, and here's the key things. First of all, they're developing this game in close collaboration with the community. So we're getting insight into every decision. They're asking for our feedback. They have the code up in Git right now, so you can download the source code today. The next thing is it's for Linux, Mac, and PC. So it's a +1 for the PC Master Race people out there. And then the big thing is, it's free. So it's not free to play. It's not, we're gonna kill you to death with microtransactions. It's just straight up free. So that kind of brings us to our first discussion point. Briz, how are they going to make money with this?
Okay, so the things that they've been talking about lately are opening up a marketplace that they can have people submit content to and even sell content on. And obviously they would take in a percentage of the money, and they also would allow you to install content outside of this marketplace. So it's kind of up to you what you decide to do with your content that you make yourself, but that's one of their core things. The other place that they're hoping to make money with this is on getting people to buy engine licenses. If you haven't been keeping track of how Epic has monetized their engine right now, the Unreal Engine 4 came out with a subscription model. You can actually get it for $19 a month, and the only thing that Epic takes from you is a 5% gross revenue share. Between those two things, they're hoping to at least make the development of this game worthwhile, but of course this could all come crashing down around them and they won't make any money. They seem to be fully prepared for that, but that's where we stand today.
Well, and so I think the interesting thing is, so there was an interview with Steve Polge from Rock Paper Shotgun out on Friday, and they seem to harp on this how are you going to make money thing really, really hard. And he actually said, hey, look, I know that you guys think that there must be some sort of evil corporate conspiracy here where what I'm saying is just total BS, but there's not. And they very much took the position of like the Facebook position, like we're just going to make something really cool and that part will kind of handle itself.
Yep.
And I think the second thing that you said about people buying licenses, I think that that's really what they want to get out of this. Because looking at StarCraft with their marketplace, I mean, people do make money on it, but it's not a huge thing, right?
Yep.
But I look at most of their big successes with the Unreal Engine started out in the mod community. Like Red Orchestra's a perfect example. That was a game, won the Make Something Unreal contest. They've made 2 sequels to it. They've made money off of it. And the way that they have this set up, we could have 100 Red Orchestras come out of this. And that's where they're going to make money, not off of this marketplace, probably.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the marketplace is there just for them to have a place for us to get our content easily. And if all it ever turns into is a place that's filled with free content, they don't have anything to say about that right now. and I don't think they'll ever have anything to say about that. This is just a fun. This seems like a thing where they're trying to involve the community enough and get enough traction behind this that people will really enjoy the game and see what kind of Unreal Tournament Epic would make without any outside influence.
Yeah, I agree. So that brings me to the next thing I want to talk about, and that is these people. So I've never met any of the developers in person, but you have. What is your impression about the team that they've put together, and maybe what's going on behind the scenes?
So Steve Polge is someone that's been involved with UT from the very beginning. He's a really sharp guy. He understands the community very well. He has always advocated for more community involvement. When Beyond Unreal got the exclusive for the Titan pack in Unreal Tournament 3, that was largely due to Steve Polge's pull inside of Epic. He's just a great guy. I really like him. He has an awesome personality. Yeah, he's great. Flack, also known as Stacy Conley, she is just an amazing community manager. She has a good pulse on the community. She is very level-headed when it comes to dealing with the community. And she just has a really great reputation with most of the people that she deals with, and that is something that you want in a great community manager. David Spolinski, I haven't had a lot of personal interaction with him, but he is responsible for some really great level designs in the UT franchise. And I would tell you what they are right now, but I can't think of them off the top of my head. But he has been involved for a long time, and he is obviously very capable in Unreal Tournament.
Yeah, so I think the thing is that these guys are Unreal fanatics for sure, and they love the game just as much as we do. I think, 2 months ago we were hearing, well, we have no plans to visit the Unreal franchise again, and I think that was probably true at the time. And they definitely somehow pulled some strings, and the opportunity came up, and they jumped at it. And I think the thing is that what they're doing is crazy, frankly. I mean, the whole idea is just completely changes the gaming world and what it means for early access. They're really putting their necks out here, so they must really believe in this idea and in the Unreal Tournament community to make this happen.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you can go today and download everything that they've been working on for the past week is just insane. I mean, we always felt like that Epic had really great community interaction during UT, and we really always wished that would come back. And this is taking that to even another level completely. Going in and being able to see Nick Donaldson's prototypes on the movement, going in and being able to see David Spolinski's thoughts on the levels, and Jim Brown, his ideas on how to build a good level. And see the prototypes. I mean, we're watching Epic create a game from scratch, and we're seeing all the problems that come with that, and we're seeing all the benefits that come with that, and it is just a crazy experience right now.
Yeah, well, and it kind of puts our role in context a little bit too, because we're really going to have to step up in order for this to work. And maybe a little bit later I can share some ideas on how I think we can do that better. But, it's a huge opportunity for everybody. So finally on that, to tie it all together, what do you think about the new Epic? So it's kind of been like this 1-2-3 punch that's come out. So first they came out and they said, hey, you're gonna have complete access to Unreal Engine for $19 a month. I was like mind blown. There was fireworks and whatnot. And then they came out with all of the information about Fortnite, which to me looks like an awesome game, and I really hope that I get into that alpha hint. And I was all preparing to stream that, and then they come out and they say, there's a new Unreal Tournament. We know that a lot of people have left Epic, and things are definitely changing around internally, and they're trying to present like a new Epic face. And I'm really liking what I'm seeing so far.
Yeah, I mean, due to a few different changes that have been made in the company and certain people that have left, I just think that they're trying to reinvent themselves as the Epic that they wish they could have been. For years they've had to live under the publisher model. Now they don't need to anymore. For years they've been dealing with industry influences, I guess is the best way to put it. And now they don't have to deal with those either. I mean, they have created the most popular engine out there, Unreal Engine. There's no comparison in the number of games that have been built with Unreal Engine versus other games at this point. And part of that is just they've got great tools, and they've got a great looking engine, and it's just super easy to do awesome things in it. But on the other hand of that is they want to be able to make awesome games, and that's something that I think that they feel like they've been stifled on recently. They've always had to justify their projects to a publisher and work with a publisher and get marketing and all that stuff behind it. Now they don't need to. They have the money to put up for it. They have the people that just have an interest in it. And I think that's why we're seeing what we're seeing right now. Like, there's people inside Epic that really wanted to build, a Minecraft-like game, and here we go. We've got Fortnite coming. It looks really fun. There's people inside Epic that just love the Unreal franchise and have been dying to build the Unreal tournament they want, and here it is. We're seeing it. So I think this is just an opportunity for Epic to show us who they wish they could have been for the past 10 years, and they feel like they haven't been able to.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I mean, like you were saying about the publisher thing, I mean, no publisher would ever allow this. This is pure insanity from their point of view, for sure. So, so another thing that they mentioned in that announcement, and this kind of segues us into talking about some of the game balance stuff that's going on, because they said that they want to create a next-gen FPS. So I think the first thing is that kind of says this isn't just going to be UT99 HD remix. I know I was told it was like, I wouldn't mind that, but it sounds like they're going to make a full new game. I mean, we already know that from what they've said they're doing and the way that they currently position something. But what do you think it means to have the next gen arena FPS now?
Well, things have changed a lot. I mean, there's a lot more game-changing developments inside the industry that I think they're going to have to deal with. A really good example of that is all of the features that Steam adds. Steam for free gives you achievements and cloud backups and the marketplace and the meta games and all that stuff that people just are drawn to.
Yeah, Workshop is another one that changes things.
Workshop is just an incredibly useful innovation, I would say, in downloading custom content. I mean, if anybody has downloaded custom content for any game prior to 2008, it was a nightmare. It was go and find a downloadable file and install it, and then hope that it never changes, because otherwise you have to go find the new file and then reinstall it and all those things. And I can't tell you how many times I would join a server and it was like,
you're outdated.
You're on version 1.1 and we released version 1.9. You're like 100 versions behind. Well, managing all of that stuff is just a huge pain. And Epic is either going to have to leverage the fact that Steam has those features and figure out a way to integrate well with them while also having other ways to get content.
Yeah, because it sounds like they also kind of want to have their own ecosystem, especially with the marketplace. And they've talked about that they might want to integrate with Workshop, but they don't really know the details on how that might work.
Yeah, and I would imagine that would require more direct involvement with Valve, who may be interested in something like that.
Yeah, well, PC Master Race for the win, and I'm sure that they'd be all over what they're doing right now. So another thing that I think, another feature that has been popular in the Steam world lately has been the matchmaking.
Yeah.
So there was a really good article, I think it was on Kotaku past week, where they talked about how when they first released Counter-Strike Go, nobody really cared. The matchmaking sucked. And they talked about all of the things that they did to iterate to get to where it is now, the most popular game out there again. And I don't know if matchmaking as it exists in CS:GO is right for Unreal Tournament, because Unreal Tournament has definitely been about here's a server and we built a community about this one server. But the way that you can connect with people in gaming today is totally different from what it was before, because you can get your own little group of 4 friends and go out and play something. You can stream to people. There's things like Reddit. You know, it's a different way of connecting that I think Unreal Tournament is going to have to handle at some point.
Yeah, I mean, Left 4 Dead was one of the first games that really changed the face of connecting with other people. I mean, the fact that you could go from your friends list to into a game waiting to play with a group of friends within a matter of seconds just completely changes the dynamic about getting into a game. Being able to look at your friends list and see that people are playing the same game that you want to play right now, that's a huge thing. And even being able to go from seeing them in the game to joining that same game to, whatever. That's something that they're going to have to approach, and I kind of hope that they figure out a way to integrate well with Steam, not because I particularly care if the game is on Steam, but because I just have doubts that we would be able to replicate all of that functionality in a short period of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and it's essentially because I've seen on the forum there's talking about matchmaking. It's actually turned out to be quite a controversial subject, which I was surprised with. But it'll be interesting to see, because I think that we have an opportunity to I mean, we're talking about a next-gen arena FPS, not just a current-gen FPS, and so there's a lot of things that they can do that could potentially move us even more forward in that area. So let's talk about movement here really quick, okay? So, first thing is, Steve Polge came on the forums and he wrote this big long post about how they are moving towards right now.
Yep.
And, what are your thoughts about that? Why don't you describe for us quickly what they wrote?
Okay, so what it boils down to is that I don't think that anybody that's working on this game right now has any interest in recreating or duplicating any previous game. What it seems like to me, and a little bit of this is intermingled with my own biases probably, but to me it seems like what they're looking for is a game that feels like the original Unreal Tournament, that moves like the Unreal Tournament 2000X series, and that is as breathtakingly beautiful as UT3 was intended to be. And when I say that, a good example is to go and download the UDK and play through the UT demo that's in there, because that, to me, is Epic's vision of what UT3 should have been. Mm-hmm. So what we're talking about is the game is a little bit more grounded. There's none of this, flying through the air at 1,000,000 miles an hour. There's none of this shooting people from across the map at every opportunity. There's none of this you can get out of any situation at any time because of the way the movement works. It's more in your face. It's more realistic and gritty. It's more of a challenge, There's no there's a commitment to how you're going to move, and once you make that commitment, you have to follow through.
Yeah. So I mean the big thing was he said we're leaning. He didn't say like straight up we're not going to do it. Like he said we're leaning against having double jump. But then at the same time he also said maybe wall running. So it was kind of like we want it to feel like UT99 did, and I think that the biggest things about that was that it was a faster movement speed. You could turn on a dime, and you couldn't jump like super far. Yeah. It was just enough to like get out of the way of a rocket.
Yeah.
But they're also saying that we still want there to be things that you can do with the movement that can set you apart from other players.
Yep.
And I think that they're also kind of maybe coming to they want to have or at least for me, maybe this is just me, but I like gameplay mechanics that have a smooth, learning curve, so that it's not like it's really, really hard to do, but once you can do it, you own everybody sort of a thing. I prefer something that like most players can do, but they might not be able to use it very effectively. Dodge is a lot like that. Everybody can dodge, it's easy, but not everybody can use dodge at the right moment to dodge a shot combo, right? And I get the impression that they're kind of going for that. So when you look at their prototype that they put out, so Nick's prototype, there's the mantling thing, which I think. So what do you think about the mantling? Because I'm not sure. It seems like it makes it easy, or jumps that you would maybe miss before, what you thought you were going to get, you're going to get now. But it also changes your hitbox. So I don't know.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, before we say anything about our opinions on it, we should probably say a lot of the things that they've done so far need a lot of tweaking.
Yeah.
There's by no means are we saying that anything they've done is perfect the way it is and that it shouldn't be changed at all. There's elements of all of the games and all the things that they've done so far in the prototypes that I think work really well. So on the topic of mantling, I think that they have what seems to be a potentially good idea. Whether the implementation is exactly right or not, that's questionable, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at, previous games where something might have required a double jump to reach, right?
Yeah.
If you look at UT3 or UT 2004, pretty much everywhere that a jump was required, a double jump was required. And it's because it's a very harsh movement, but it's also just becomes second nature. You're always double jumping around. You always assume every jump requires a double jump.
Exactly.
And so from that perspective, and this seems to be reflected in the opinions of people from Epic, the double jump became kind of a useless move. You always did it. It was just second nature. Mantling, on the other hand, is something where it becomes a risk versus reward thing. If a level designer puts a power-up on top of a box that requires mantling to get to, you have to know that you're going to be exposing yourself for a certain period of time to get up on top of that box and get that power-up. There's a risk to that reward. On the other side of that, you could impact hammer jump up to get it. Mm-hmm. That causes damage. There's a risk. There should always be a risk for something that's extremely desirable. One of the things that I saw that seemed interesting was a way to, dodge across some beams and then force you to mantle onto a ledge that got you to a power-up. The idea that a level designer has a little more control over how much risk you're taking to get something seems really interesting to me. The other thing, too, is that it just keeps your movement really fluid. And that's one thing that I really like in the UT games, and something that I love in 2003 and 2004, is that your movement consistently stays fluid. You're always, going in and out of moves to get to different places or while you're fighting, and I think that makes a lot of sense. The problem comes in when those moves have negative ramifications on level design or weapon balance. But this mantling mechanic to me doesn't seem like it has that same negative impact as things like the double jump do.
Yeah, well, so I really like that. So there's another prototype out there from, and I really don't know how to say his name, but it's like Gilanguar, I think. He's a British guy, and he's put out 2 really good videos. And I have to say, if you guys want to look at how to do a prototype, look at his videos, because he doesn't just do a prototype. He gives you the code, he makes a video, and he explains why he did what he did. And he was also kind of talking about how we don't want to screw up the level design like the way that the dodge jump did. And so his solution to that was, because he still liked the dodge jump mechanic of it, he said, we'll allow you to dodge jump, but you still have to land. So you'll dodge, and then you can bounce off the floor and it will carry your momentum. So you might be able to use that to get a little bit further, faster than you normally would, but it's probably not going to allow you to reach a particular spot that you normally wouldn't.
Right.
And in his video, he actually shows how you can use that to dodge off a wall, hop, dodge off another wall, and keep the strings going. But that goes back to the other point that you were talking about, like strafe jumping. I hate strafe jumping. That's just my opinion, but I don't like it. Like when I started playing Warsaw, because that seemed like that had a lot of elements that I liked, fast weapon switch, hit scan weapons, but you were basically chasing people the whole map.
Yep.
Because it was all about maintaining your momentum was more important than facing somebody directly.
Yep.
And so it would be interesting to see, and we'd have to play it out to see, would adding the momentum from one bunny hop, would that lead to that situation? Would it lead to a situation where people figure out how to transverse the entire map, keeping their dodge momentum the whole time? I don't know. The other thing is the infinite wall dodge.
Yeah.
So I think that this mechanic is interesting, if only for the fact that it leads to weird bugs.
Yeah.
So you can dodge off of a wall multiple times before you actually get away with it, and it just sends you flying.
Yeah, I mean, there's one of the sample maps is called Reboot, and there's an area in that map where it's kind of got an angled curve in the walls.
There's like an octagon.
Yeah, and you can pretty much accelerate yourself around that wall at the speed of light to the other side because you just dodge off of every single angle in that room, and it's ridiculous. For me, infinite wall dodge has some kind of fun element to it, but I don't know if it'll work out or not. It's something where it seems like, yeah, that makes sense. I do like that in Nick's prototype, the wall dodging doesn't give you any additional momentum. So
Right.
When you do infinite wall dodge, you have to be kind of falling to get the benefit that the wall dodges provide, but it doesn't actually give you any momentum, or it's not like Unreal Championship 2 where you can bounce up and back and forth up an area, get to a higher area. I mean, one problem in that game with the infinite wall dodge was you could go into a corner and just infinite wall dodge up the corner and get into impossible to reach places and maps just by doing that simple move. So there's definitely some balance things there that are questionable. But one of the other things that I wanted to point out that I saw that at first I was really apprehensive about is this idea of a slam move.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically that when you're in the middle of the air, you can say, drop me to the ground immediately. And at first when I heard about it, I was like, this does not sound good at all. Just think of all the ways that you can break your movement by doing that. I mean, one of the things that UT forces you to do is commit to a move once you've made it.
Yes.
So if you jump forward or you dodge forward, you are committed to that, and your movement's very predictable. And slam is something that breaks it up. But, I voiced those concerns on the message boards, and somebody came back and said, well, what if you balanced it this way? When you hit the ground, you're paralyzed for an instant or something. I started thinking, well, maybe that kind of a movement could work. There's a lot of ideas out there that, don't seem that good up front, but when you sit down and somebody says, well, here's some other ideas surrounding that, then you can start saying, well, maybe we could make something like that work. And it is worth to explore all these different things. And another thing along those lines is that I don't think the movement is going to be finalized when they decide to move on to other aspects.
Oh, certainly not. Well, and I think, the big thing is, so Epic is hard, really, really hard. When you look at the last podcast, it was prototype. You should prototype things, You should prototype things. And I think it's because when it really comes down to it with the movement, the important thing is how it feels. There's just a certain flavor to the game that the movement gives. That's beyond just the balance of it, And I think that it would seem like at first, from what you've seen on the forums, that movement would be a really controversial thing. But I promise you guys, having been in the community for now 14 years, this is probably going to be one of the least controversial things that happens. And I think that if they're able to duplicate that feel of the original Unreal, that in the end people will be pretty happy.
Yeah.
And I think that Steve Polge's comment, where we want to have the feel and the scaling of it, but we still want the movement to be masterable. I really like that idea.
And I think that, I mean, you said one thing earlier that I think is true about accessibility. You know, one of the things that Steve said is that they were thinking of having an alternate way to execute a dodge because, you know, even the double tap to them seems a little bit inaccessible. You know, making movement that's accessible to people that just, you know, it's a natural progression from what they currently know in first-person shooters. It just helps them to progress their skill. You know, one of the big problems that the 2KX series had was that from the moment you joined your very first game, you were at a disadvantage. You had already hit the first plateau in skill in that game. And the only way for you to get to a point where you were actually competitive was to pass the first skill gap, which was learning how to move and learning how to switch your weapons. And then there was another plateau. But once you got to that plateau, then you were good at the game. The difference between that and UT3 is that the first time you join a game in those games, your first-person shooter skill transfers over for the most part.
You have all of the tools that you need, and it's just a matter of getting good with those tools.
Exactly. I mean, every game has a rocket launcher, every game has a shotgun/flak, every game has a sniper rifle. You can kill people occasionally just by having those weapons and being familiar with first-person shooter. You know, forcing people to learn advanced movement and forcing people to learn weapon switching and all that stuff, that just introduces a barrier that is a challenge for a developer to overcome. You have to convince new players that they can come in and play a game that from the very first moment they step into the game, they're going to be at a disadvantage. They'll go through game after game after game where they may get one kill the entire game. That's just disheartening to a new person.
Yeah. Yep.
And one other thing that I wanted to touch on that same kind of subject is there's been a lot of talk on the UT forums about why do we want to make a game for new players? This is supposed to be the Epic's love letter to UT fans, so we should make the most UT game that we can. The problem with that attitude is that all the UT games have, in total today, maybe 5,000 players.
Yeah.
And we're not going to keep a game populated and popular and successful with 5,000 players.
Well, you know, and the other kind of point is, I would say, is that Unreal Tournament 99 was like that. Because when I came into that, I couldn't even use the mouse and move at the same time. I had no clue what I was doing when I first started playing Unreal Tournament. But it was still a game that I could enjoy, even though I was getting my butt kicked, and I could slowly become better at. Because ultimately, I was able to come in and know what the tools were. It wasn't like, first you have to have the reflexes enough to be able to do this move, and then you have to have the reflexes to be able to weapon switch, which is hard for a lot of people, and then you have to have about 30% accuracy before you can even, like, kill stuff, right? So, I want to, close things. Because we've said a lot about how we feel about the movement. Obviously, our discussion is always going to be biased. So the first thing I'm going to say is that if anything we said you think is bullshit, post in the comments here on the YouTube. I will read every single one of them, and the ones that are good, if you present yourself in a good way, we will respond to it. The second thing is there's a lot of stuff on the forum right now. It was really hard for us to decide what we wanted to talk about because there's so many prototypes and so many different opinions out there. It's really hard to wade through it. So I wanted to give a couple of pointers to people out there about how you can stand out above the crowd. So the thing is, like we talked earlier, the gaming world has changed. It used to be that you could just throw up your thoughts into a new reply or a new topic and stuff would happen. It's not like that anymore. You really have to put effort behind what you're doing. So what are some ways that you can stand out? First one is this podcast. And if you have an idea, we're planning on having people on doing Skypes or Google Hangouts with prominent members of the community. If you have something good that you want to present, we can have you on the show.
Yep.
The second thing is when you're going to post a new topic, go all out. I mean, if you can have pictures, you can have an actual prototype, video. Don't just spend, a minute writing something up. Like, you put a lot of thought behind it, people are going to pay attention to it more.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing to keep in mind is that your opinions are going to carry less weight by saying things like, I'm not going to purchase a license until I know whether I'm going to like this game or not. What purpose does Epic have to listen to your input if you're not even going to spend the money and time and effort to get, your idea presented?
And the people that, to me at least, seem to be having the biggest effect on where the community is going, I don't know how much Epic is listening to them. I only know that Epic reads absolutely freaking everything.
Yeah.
But, the people that seem to be having an impact on the community are the ones that made prototypes and posted videos.
Yeah.
So a couple of other things I want to point out. There are places other than the forum where you can be heard that you can cater your message to a specific group of people. So the Beyond Unreal forum, obviously we're going to plug that because it's a great place, and we have a very cohesive community. It's really interesting to read the forums because when we go and we say, well, I think movement should be like this, everybody is like, yeah, I'm okay with that. even those of us like myself that were really loved Unreal Tournament 2004 and wouldn't mind an HD remix of that are like, well, I'm okay if it's not like that.
Yeah.
And another big one is the subreddit. So I'm a moderator of the r/Unreal Tournament subreddit. And the cool thing about Reddit is that everything is upvoted, including the comments. And so if you have something really good, it's going to be up at the top of that subreddit. And if you have something that's stupid, then nobody's ever going to see it because they're going to downvote you. And that's a really good way to see, where people are going right now. And it's a really good way to promote your content. And I would say that if you're serious about an idea that you want to share, I would go on all three places and post your stuff.
So some other things that I would point out too, like if you want to keep track of what Epic is doing on these things and you don't want to purchase an engine license, you don't feel like you really want to commit to contributing to this project, or you just want to be able to post your thoughts and have other people contribute for you, that's fine. We are trying to keep a handle on at least what Epic is doing in the Beyond Unreal forums. There's a Unreal Tournament forum. It's just right at the top of the list above the fold. You'll see it as soon as you drop in there. There is a member of the community. His name is Raxxy, Raxxy. You can go to ut.raxxy.com, and he has a few videos on there where he has prototyped out the movement that Epic's come up with right now. You can also see the rudimentary flak cannon that they've proposed. But that's a good place to follow what Epic is doing. And you can also follow along on the UT forums on UnrealEngine.com. I would say the one downside to that option is that you're more likely to get noise than signal from the Unreal Engine forums for UT.
I would definitely, you can click on any member's profile and view all of the posts from that member on the forums. So if you want to know what's going on, definitely go and, especially Steve, because he's in charge, go and look at all of his posts. But we're going to try and do the best job that we can of aggregating this information and putting it together for you into one place.
Yep.
And, I think one of the things that they said that resonates the most with me is that everybody in the community gets a voice.
Yep.
This is like, I like to call it Unreal Tournament Final, because this is the Unreal Tournament where we finally do it the way that we all want. Everybody will be happy, and that includes the UT99 players, that includes the pro players, that includes me, because I have a lot of wild and crazy ideas about the way things should be that are very off kilter with the rest of the community. We can make this work. We just have to step up. And that means you're going to have to put a little bit more effort than you put in maybe in past games.
Yep. And along with that, I mean, they're calling this game Unreal Tournament right now with no subtitle whatsoever. This is the ongoing Unreal Tournament platform into the next generation. So, you know, now's the time to be heard. Now's the time to get your prototypes in to make sure that at least your ideas are considered. Now is the time to help make Unreal Tournament the game you always wanted it to be.
Yeah. So I think that's about it. Is there anything else you want to say in closing?
Nope. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, obviously. And we'll see you next week.
Cha-ching.